The night air was crisp, and the soft glow of string lights flickered above the small table I had set up outside the college dining hall. It was 1987, and I had spent weeks planning this surprise dinner for Lauren. She was the smartest girl in our business class, and I had finally worked up the nerve to ask her out. Tonight was supposed to be perfect, but something was wrong. The food never came, and the dining hall doors remained shut, as an eerie silence hung in the air. At first, I thought maybe the kitchen staff were running behind, but the longer we sat there, the more uneasy I felt. Then I saw it. A smear of dark red across the glass doors leading inside. My stomach clenched and I felt a deep sense of dread as I stood, motioning for Lauren to stay behind, but she was already on her feet, sensing the same wrongness in the air. We stepped inside, and the smell hit us instantly. It was coppery and heavy. We both instinctively knew what it was. The lights flickered overhead, casting long shadows that danced across the tiled floor. A streak of dark red liquid led from the kitchen toward the main hallway, disappearing around the corner. My heart pounded as I stepped forward, glancing toward the kitchen doors. One of them hung open, swinging slightly as if someone had just passed through, and Lauren screamed when we saw a motionless body sprawled on the floor. It was the chef. His white uniform was soaked in red, there was a deep injury in his chest, and suddenly we heard heavy boots against the tiles. It was the janitor. I'd seen him around campus before. He was always there, pushing his mop and emptying trash cans. I'd never spoken to him and I didn't even know his name. But now, he was something else, something monstrous. A dark silhouette in the hallway, dragging an axe along the floor, its blade scraping against the tiles with an awful screech. He wasn't cleaning anymore. He was hunting. I grabbed Lauren's wrist and pulled her with me. We ran, ducking into a side hallway lined with lockers. The pounding footsteps behind us grew louder and faster. My lungs burned as we skidded to a stop. There was nowhere to go. No doors, no windows. There was only the cold metal lockers towering beside us. We climbed in. I shut the door behind me, forcing myself to breathe through the panic. The metal walls felt suffocating, pressing in from all sides. Through the slats, I could see Lauren's locker just across from mine. Her fingers trembled as she covered her mouth, her eyes wide with terror. Then he entered. The janitor stopped in the middle of the hallway, breathing heavily. He bashed the axe against the lockers and then turned his head, listening. The silence was unbearable. I could hear my own heartbeat, loud and frantic. He moved, checking the lockers one by one, yanking doors open with brutal force. He was getting closer. I squeezed my eyes shut, my body rigid. I willed myself not to make a sound, and the locker next to mine creaked open, followed by the dull thud of the axe striking something soft. A body slumped to the ground. Someone else had been hiding. Suddenly, an idea struck me. I reached into my jacket pocket and grabbed the small set of keys I carried for my dorm. I slid them out carefully, opened the locker door, and with a quick flick of my wrist, I tossed them down the hallway. The keys clattered loudly against the tile, the sharp sound bouncing off the walls. The janitor's head snapped toward the noise. For a few agonizing seconds, he stood there, motionless, deciding whether to investigate. Then, with a guttural growl, he stomped toward the sound, his grip on the axe tightening. I counted to 3 in my head and then silently opened my locker. Lauren did the same. We crept out, barely breathing, our footsteps as light as possible. The janitor was still moving toward the fallen keys, his back now turned to us. We bolted through a doorway and down a set of stairs without thinking. I knew he would be somewhere behind us, and the air grew colder, almost damp. The walls changed from smooth concrete to rough unfinished brick. It wasn't until we saw the workbenches, the tools, and the scattered janitorial equipment that I realized that we were in his workshop. Before we could turn back, the door at the top of the stairs slammed open. The janitor stood silhouetted against the dim light, his chest rising and falling heavily. He didn't hesitate to descend the stairs slowly, his axe scraping against the metal railing, and his expression was one of sheer madness. We were trapped. I grabbed the nearest thing I could, which was a wrench from one of the workbenches, and held it in front of me like a pathetic excuse for a weapon. Lauren pressed herself against the wall, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. The janitor stepped closer, the flickering light above casting deep shadows over his face. His eyes gleamed with something inhuman as he raised the axe high, ready to strike. Then, gunfire. The sharp cracks of the bullets echoed through the basement. The janitor stumbled, his body jerking with each impact. He let out a choked breath and collapsed onto the cold concrete, the axe slipping from his grasp. His gaze fell in our direction, and he limply tried to find his weapon again, then fell still. His body twitched once, then it was over. The police officers rushed in, their guns still raised. They made sure that the janitor was not moving and then guided Lauren and me away from the corpse. My legs shook as I walked up the stairs, with Lauren clinging onto me. For the next few hours, we sat outside the college building wrapped in emergency blankets. The police were everywhere, marking off the crime scene and talking to witnesses. They only asked us basic questions to begin with, as they could probably tell we were in shock. In the weeks and months that followed, I couldn't shake the images from my mind, nor could I forget the sound of that axe scraping across the floor. We found out later that the janitor's name was Nathan Delaney, and his family and friends said that he was just a quiet and unassuming guy. The profilers didn't have much to go on, and to this day, nobody knows what set him off that night. One thing is for sure though, I will never forget the feeling of being hunted.